Everybody, thanks for joining me. My name is David, and this is my channel. Today, we're going to talk about, I get comments sometimes about, what about all these bad people, evil people? I mean, look, we're looking out in this world, and we see rapists, and we see murders, and we see people stealing, and people hurting people, and so forth and so on. So, this gets very tricky in the spiritual realm, because here we're talking about we're all innocent, and we're all love, and we're all one with God and one mind. But what about these others? Well, this is a really, really great question, and it is something that we certainly need to discuss and to investigate. So look, if you notice, what we're really been talking about is this idea of giving and receiving. And the more you understand that you don't get from the world is just a reflection of your thoughts. So this is interesting. Let's say that I look out in the world and I see murders, rapists, and things on the news and all these bad things going on, okay? Now, every time I look out there and see it, I have given it some kind of judgment, okay? So in order for me to see someone who's murdering, I have to believe that there's a such thing as murder. That means that there's a feeling that I'm a body and I'm not an eternal soul, and that God has created someone who can hurt us. Do you see, there's a lot more at this. So I have to believe all of these things. Now I have to judge it. Or I have to believe that that person has nothing to do with me and we're separate. You see, all these things my inner being isn't going to feel. There's no way that is going to believe any of this idea. So now as I judge that, I'm going to feel that push. And what I'm really feeling is nothing to do with them. I'm feeling the movement away from the thoughts that I have about this person that my inner being doesn't agree with. Does that make sense? So as you judge the world, or as we judge anything in the world we don't like, we are going to feel the thoughts that we have about them. You cannot get thoughts from the world. The world has nothing to get. You are literally creating all of it based on your thoughts. And that's so important to understand. So in order for me not to like something, I have to have a thought about it first, and then I have to judge it based on that thought, and now I have to receive it back. And I'm going to receive that, what we call the effect. Because this world is a cause and effect world. You, each one of us, are the cause of our own world. No one else. You are the cause based on your thoughts. And the world is the effect based on the cause that you have given it. If you look out in the world and you see it as evil, and you see it as a problematic world, and you see it as something that needs a lot of changes, that's the cause. Can you feel that? That's your cause. Therefore, you must receive it back in the form of effect. Just like if you look at a bush that has one rose but a lot of other dead leaves, someone could say, that bush is dying. And that would be their cause. That's what they would see. You wouldn't be able to convince them otherwise. That's what they would see. That would be their truth. And another person can say, that bush is growing. You see, from that one rose, that beauty. Oh, life is flowing through it. I'm excited about it. It's flowing in. And the other one says, no, it's dying. Don't you see all of those leaves that are dying? Something's taking it, you see. And it's the same thing with the world. We can see it as deteriorating. One person can see it as deteriorating. You could see it as all these bad things flowing in, things losing and loss and lack and death and demise everywhere. And another person can see just the life, just the flow, just the goodness, because they're both there. But they are one at a time, just like a quarter, heads and tails. You can't see them both. And that's the misperception. We believe we can see them both, but we can't. It's one or the other. Two different worlds that we're consistently moving in the direction of. Sometimes we move back and forth between these two worlds. Oh, I see life there, I see death there, I see good here, I see not good there. But it's going to be our choice. Our thoughts, our perception is going to be what we see. And where we see thoughts of some kind of energy not flowing or negativity, we must receive the effects back of it, because we are all one. Now you have to sit with that, because that is the way out, and it was also the way in. We started believing we can look out at the world and judge it and not receive the effects of it. You are the cause of your life based on your thoughts, and you will receive the effects based on those thoughts. because the cause and effect is always in the same place. So we have to sit with that truth. And once again, I always say, don't take my word for it. Go see for yourself. Go out there and make it easy. Look at like a bush and see both parts and see if you can change back and forth between them. Notice you can only see one at a time. And it's the same thing with the whole world. Yes, there are always going to be those out there that have gotten lost. There are going to be those out there that do not understand who they are. They do not understand their thoughts create their life. They believe they are a body. They have been taught that they are this body and that no one loves them and no one appreciates them. Therefore, they act out in different ways. You see, everything comes from lack of love. Anger, frustration, evil, all emotion, negative emotion, which causes all negative effects or negative responses in that life out there that we're looking at, comes from that which is not love. A push against love, a movement away from love, or from someone's perspective, love not being one with them. Because there's only love on one side and fear on the other side, and then a journey in between that emotional scale. That world is going to be the effect of where that emotional scale is for each one of us. So there's going to be those that do not feel love, those that have never received love, those who are angry and frustrated, believing that they were created to hurt, and therefore inflicting that hurt back upon the world from their perspective. It'll always be there because we're all on different journeys. However, that's a temporary thing. We are all eternal souls. Somewhere along the line, we've all been that person, I'm sure. Somehow, somewhere, some life. Because we're all moving through every experience we can possibly have from separation before we can move back into the connection of all that we are. So these journeys are necessary for the development of our souls, as even though they feel to each one of us as we look upon them and observe them not good. But I can assure you that the reason they're not good and the reason they make you feel negative and angry or whatever negative emotion you are as you look upon them is not because of what you're seeing. It's because of the movement away from your inner being, because your inner being sees them differently. The inner being sees a soul on a journey moving up and down. Don't forget from the Bible, Paul, who was once Saul, and Saul created all kinds of atrocities. He's a wonderful figure to look at because he created all kinds of problems. Persecuted and killed and murdered. He went through all kinds of things in his life before Jesus came to him and he became Paul. Jesus understood that we are all innocent, that there is no guilt, none. And Paul was a great example of that truth. And we're all somewhere that Saul moving back into Paul. All of us. Because we wouldn't even have negative emotion if we didn't think we were guilty and had problems. And that which is sinful against us always creates guilt from within. Sin and guilt go together. So I say this. As you look out in the world and observe it and see the things you don't like, you see the bush that's dying instead of the bush that is living and growing. Know that you will receive the effects of that. And those effects will live on and move and change your vibration. Therefore, you will attract from it. But also know this. If there's something that you need to get from that person, well, I need them to suffer. Don't worry, they are. They wouldn't have done it if they weren't already suffering. And they will receive the effects back as well. But why join in with them? Why receive it with them? And once you realize that they are going to receive the effects because that karma is real until they decide to change. And they're clearly not in a place to change, so therefore they must receive it. What they give, they will receive, always. Then you'll realize you don't need to do anything to them. They have already done it to themselves. And once you realize they're doing it to themselves, and then you realize they don't know they're doing it to themselves, your hate or your frustration for them will turn into compassion. And you will see, from a compassionate standpoint, they know not what they do. As Jesus said on the cross, you know not what you do, as he forgave them all and loved them as himself. You see, and that's what we're looking for, the eyes of compassion. That way you can look out of the world and see life instead of death. We can see innocence instead of guilt, so we can receive it back. Be selfish for your own sake, because what you observe, you become. That's the way the law works. What you give, you will receive. But if it gives you any kind of feeling of goodness inside to know that those people will suffer and are suffering, I guess hold that truth. Because whatever anyone's doing out there that doesn't make anyone happy or that is causing a lot of discord in this world, they will and are receiving the effect back tenfold, regardless of what they say. If they're doing miserable things, they're miserable. You see, that's truth. That's the law. But from my perspective, as I learn that they know not what they do, that they don't understand, and they continue to receive it back and receive it back, and then I realize that I can look out there and receive back their own sins back to me. I mean, we are one. This is amazing. Do not judge, therefore you will not be judged, Jesus said. Do you see? Love your enemies. What was he talking about? He was saying, love your enemies, let them be. They will be the effect of their own decisions. They will receive back what they do. Leave them to their own demise. They will figure it out, but they are eternal, and they will also figure out one day that they are innocent and that they are loved. Every single one. But in the meantime, they will be the victim of their own effects. But we do not need to be there with them. And that's just the truth. You can't fight it. It just is what it is. What you observe, you become. You cannot see someone apart from yourself. These are the laws. So until you can look out there and see them as innocent, as who they permanently are, not who they're temporarily becoming, then you will feel their sin inside yourself in the form of guilt or negative emotion, which is the same thing. Negative emotion is just movement away from who you are based on what you're observing or what you're experiencing. And it's not true. It never will be true. Because you are love. And that's what your inner being is there to remind you of. When you feel negative emotion, you're looking at something incorrectly. You're looking and observing something that's not necessarily true in the bigger scheme of things, in the broader perspective, and you are receiving the effects back in the form of negative emotion, and vibration is going down. And my question always is it worth it to observe something that someone else is going through, a brother and sister that's hurting, a brother and sister that doesn't know how to love because it hasn't received love, it's cut it off its whole life? And instead of hurting and hating it and feeling the effects of it, why not have compassion for them? Why not send a prayer to them? Why not know deep in your heart that they will be saved? That they are Saul, but one day they will be Paul. And that the eternal life of love and God and all of non-physical are there with them, loving them. That love is the only thing that heals. Why not know the truth of their being so you can feel that back? And as you feel that back, you can give it to them just within a quiet breath without getting involved. And we will do more in that than we will ever do with punishing. Because as you punish anyone, you always punish yourself. And as you imprison anyone, you always imprison yourself. It's a mirror. And the world is only a reflection of who you think you are, and is only a reflection of your thoughts about yourself. This is just the law. It's the truth. And the more we understand it, the more we will be compassionate. And the more we will look out at that world as Jesus looked out from that cross and say, they know not what they do. And the more we will love our enemy as ourselves. And the more we will stop judging, so therefore we will not be judged. Take this with you. As always, always, it is up to you what you receive. I have so much love for all of you. Thank you so much. I understand that this journey is not easy, especially with all those mirrors. I completely get it. But it is the truth. Like this video if you're liking this video, and of course, subscribe. And as always, my unconditional love and appreciation on this very topsy-turvy, but very rewarding journey that we are all on together.